I have been known to take my curiosity about food to extremes, but this time, I really raised the heat. This is MinuteFood. Every year about this time, another video comes out warning people not to deep fry frozen turkeys. I'm all for a good PSA, and the explosions I've seen are intense. But what I haven't seen is a good explanation of why a frozen bird specifically leads to deep fried disaster. Plus, I had questions about some of the things going on in these videos that left me wondering what we should actually be warning people about here. So there was only one option: reproduce these poultry pyrotechnics myself. Okay, not exactly myself, because as dedicated as I am to nerding out, I am not about to set my house ablaze for science.
Hi, and neither should you. Please, please don't try any of this at home, okay? Bye.
So I recruited some experts, the awesome firefighters at Boulder City Fire Department, who very generously agreed to help me deep fry a series of turkeys in order to quench my culinary curiosity and hopefully shed some scientific light on a potentially dangerous practice. Destin from Smarter Every Day and Henry from Minute Physics also provided some amazing support for this video. But we're all here for the explosions, right? So one Monday morning, I showed up bright and early at the firehouse with some propane burners, a lot of oil, and a bunch of turkeys in various stages of frozenness. And we got down to business. And one of my big questions was displacement. Some of the frozen turkey PSAs I've seen use so much oil that simply putting the turkey in the pot displaces oil over the edge, which, if you've left the burner on, then ignites. In this case, the resulting fireball doesn't have to do with the frozenness of the turkey. A thawed turkey, or literally anything else large enough to displace the oil, would produce the same effect. I wanted to make sure that whatever outcome we were going to get wasn't a matter of this initial displacement. So in advance, we'd pretty conservatively measured the amount of liquid that would fit in the pot with the turkey without overflowing. And when we lowered in our first frozen turkey, we did see some pretty violent bubbling, but that was it. On our second attempt, we added a bit more oil to the pot. Not enough for the bird to actually displace the oil when it initially went in, but enough to bring the level closer to the top of the pot once the turkey was submerged. It was only then that we saw this, a veritable Vesuvius of oil that exploded into a fireball. So first lesson learned, the amount of oil here definitely matters. Less oil decreases the chance of disaster, but even if you account for some displacement, you can still have an explosion on your hands. But what we had lowered into the pot was, in keeping with what I'd seen in these other videos, a total ice ball of a turkey, like frozen solid. And that was the second thing that was bugging me here. Is anyone really taking a completely frozen turkey out of the freezer on Thanksgiving Day and putting it straight into a deep fryer? Humans do dumb stuff, but this seems incredibly unlikely to happen that much. What I can see happening is people starting to defrost their turkey too late. The process does take forever. And therefore, either mistakenly or out of sheer panic, putting a still partially frozen bird in a deep fryer. Would this much more plausible scenario be a problem? So I had taken one turkey and defrosted it partway for like 2 days in my fridge. It was definitely thawed on the outside, but still frozen on the inside. We dropped it in, and lo and behold, the fireball was just about as impressive as the one from the frozen solid bird. So clearly, even frying a partially frozen turkey can be a liability. But, and here's where we really get to the meat of it all. Why does it being frozen matter? Well, first we needed to make sure that it being frozen does matter by replicating the test with a fully thawed bird. Wait, this is not how you should lower a turkey into a deep fryer. It should be much slower. But remember, we wanted to replicate what we had done with the frozen ones, which was basically a drop and run. Okay, roll it. So a lot of bubbling and definitely some oil erupting out of the pot, just not quite enough to actually ignite. But I wouldn't want this to happen on my watch, and I think we might have gotten lucky here. Even with a fully thawed turkey, there does seem to be potential for an explosion. See, when a turkey, or any food, comes into contact with hot oil, the water on its surface starts to boil. When you drop a big piece of food into hot oil this quickly, the water vaporizing off its surface gets stuck under a lot of oil. As it vaporizes, expanding in volume by something like 1,600 times, the steam explodes through all that oil, propelling it upwards. That is what's creating our Vesuvius here. However, if you lower the turkey slowly, like you're supposed to, the outermost layer of water vaporizes at, or at least near, the surface of the oil, which, instead of a volcano, just creates some splatter. So dropping any turkey, frozen or thawed, into a deep fryer really quickly is just not a good idea. But the frozen turkeys did create bigger eruptions, and I think there are two possible explanations for that. First, this is what a fully frozen turkey looks like. It is literally encased in a layer of ice. Compared to a thawed turkey, there's simply more surface water available, which, when submerged in hot oil, will create more steam and therefore propel more oil out of the pot, increasing the chance of the whole thing going up in flames. Although I didn't get footage of this, I'd venture to guess that the partially frozen bird had more water available inside its still frozen cavity than the thawed bird, accounting for its also fiery outcome. The second thing that's different about a frozen bird is that as the surface water heats up, it goes through two phase changes, from ice to water, and then from water to steam, rather than just the one phase change from water to steam in a thawed bird. It's possible that this two-phase transition might make the volcano more violent, maybe because it takes longer and therefore allows more water to accumulate under the oil before vaporizing. When we experimented with putting plain ice into hot oil, we could actually see the water settling to the bottom as it melted. Eventually, once all that water came to a boil, we got a really intense eruption. If someone wants to do a set of controlled experiments comparing the effects of one and two phase changes, I would love to know what you find out. But understanding this nuance isn't critical for the purpose of an explosion-free Thanksgiving, because our test suggests that basic frying safety practices are almost certainly more important than the frozenness of what you're frying. When we were super conservative about the oil level, even a frozen bird didn't fireball. And when we played fast and loose with the speed of submergement, whatever, even a fully thawed bird nearly resulted in an explosion. For me, the takeaway here is that deep frying any turkey, if you do enough stuff wrong, can end in disaster. So yes, do thaw your turkey properly, a day in the fridge for every 4 or so pounds. But also account for oil displacement conservatively. Turn off your burner before putting in the turkey so that any oil that does spill or splatter won't ignite. Lower the darn thing slowly, and, just in case, fry far away from anything you don't want to burn up. Do it right, and not only will you end up without severe burns or property damage, you will have total poultry perfection. Especially if you use this, the 𝗀𝗱𝗁𝗃 Gold, which I have been telling you about for years, but I'm gonna do it again just in case you haven't taken the plunge. Because the challenge of cooking a whole bird, other than not burning down your house, is that you have to cook different parts of the bird to different temperatures in order for the whole thing to be delicious. With the 𝗀𝗱𝗁𝗃 Gold, you get either 2 or 4 probes, each with 6 temperature sensors, 1 for the ambient temp and 5 for the meat itself. Just put 1 probe in the turkey's breast and 1 in the thigh and start cooking. The probes are heat safe up to 932 degrees, so you can even deep fry with them. You can monitor the temperature of each one as they cook, either from the base unit or an app. You'll get an alert when each part has reached your set target temperature, so you can ensure that the whole thing is cooked exactly as you want it. With the holidays coming up, this is such a great gift for the food lovers in your life. And right now, you can use code MinuteFood to get a 15% discount on the 𝗀𝗱𝗁𝗃 Gold, either at 𝗀𝗱.com or Amazon. Links are in the description. And thank you to our amazing patrons who are a true fireball of love. We just put out a printable over at Patreon to help you make sure your deep-fried turkey ends up delicious rather than disastrous.